Nikko Angelo Hinayo offer for the role. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh, like I remember just screaming. I remember just being like, this can't be happening. What's going on? Look at me now. Look at me now. You can do it too. If I can do it, you certainly can as well. Hi everyone, my name is Nikko Angelo Hinayo. I am a Filipino-Canadian actor, and I grew up in the Philippines, and I immigrated here to Canada when I was 6 years old. When I was growing up in the Philippines, we didn't really have access to a lot of cable, but we did have a DVD player. And with that DVD player, it introduced me to the world of acting with movies. I grew up watching a lot of Disney, and it really inspired me to really want to be a part of it, but I never really understood what that was until I moved here in Canada. And in high school, I was introduced to musical theater and dance and singing and all of those wonderful things. And because of some really, really amazing educators I had in high school, they really encouraged me to pursue that passion of performance and acting and just taking up space on a stage. So I did it. And then I went to a school in New York City, and then I studied musical theater there for a little bit. And while I was there, it taught me a lot. New York City is it's not easy. It's very, very hard to be living there because it's stinky and expensive. But we made do with what we could, and we just pushed through. And while I was there, I was given the opportunity auditioning for a lot of things. And with auditioning, as a lot of my fellow actor friends know, you may audition for 100 things, and all of those things will not work out. So I had to face a lot of rejection before I had a friend from Calgary send me an audition while I was in New York for this TV show. And he was like, "You should audition for this. You're perfect." And I was just so run down with all of the rejection that I had. I was like, "No, I don't want to do it. Like it won't be worth my time. Like they won't like me. They won't even they wouldn't even watch my tape because by that time I didn't have an agent and stuff like that." So I said, but he really encouraged me, and I was like, sure, whatever, fine. And I submitted my stuff, and I was like, they wouldn't even ask me to audition. And I went to bed. And then I woke up at 10 a.m., and they emailed me, the casting directors for this TV show. They were like, "Hi, Nikko. We would like for you to audition for a show. Can you have our self-tape in by 2 p.m.? It was 10 a.m., and I lived like an hour-ish away from Manhattan. So I was like, oh, okay. So I texted my friends and I was like, guys, I really need help filming this tape and stuff like that. And they were like, sure, let me help you. And I was like, amazing, let's go to it. And then we went there, like the professional fancy self-tape room was booked, so we couldn't use that. So we had to go find another rehearsal space that wasn't amazing, but we made do with what we did. I didn't even memorize the stuff they asked me to prepare. And I just said, you know what, whatever, let's just get through it. And I just gave it all I got with the sides in my hand and just acted my little heart out. And by like 1:15, like a few minutes before I had to like submit it, I submitted it, it went through, and I remember just lying down on the ground being like, oh my God, that was the most chaotic audition I've ever had in my life. That sucked. I'm such a terrible actor. And then my friend, told me, you know what, like that was pretty good. Like you did what you did what you had to do, and I think it went pretty well. And I was like, and I looked at him and I was like, you know what, watch me get this because it's the worst audition I think that I've ever done, but watch me book it. And a week later, I get an email from the casting director saying, hey, Nikko, we loved your tape. Can you retape it and make it better? And I was like, okay, I guess I have to make it better. So I memorized my lines, and then I got a better setup for myself, and then I filmed it very professionally and took their notes. And then I felt very, very confident and very, very good about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got it in the bag, I got it. And then a few days passed. And then my friend who was performing at this show in New York City, who I just met that day, I was like, oh my gosh, so what do you do? And they were like, oh, I'm also an actor. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Any upcoming projects? And then they said, oh, I'm actually in final callbacks for this TV show. And it was the same TV show I had auditioned for. And I was like, oh. And they said, yeah, it's really exciting. They sent me the script, and like I signed the NDA, and I have a Zoom call back with them. And I remember just sitting there like, oh, okay, well, I didn't get it because I didn't get that email. So I felt very sad, but I was very happy for them. And then I remember just going home that night being like, you know what? If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Like if it doesn't belong to me, it won't come to me, and something else will come. I kid you not, a week later, the casting director again emailed me being like, hey, Nikko, can you give us more of your information? We want to give you the final callbacks for this TV show with the rest of the team. And I was like, oh my God, like it's becoming real. And it was amazing. And I remember just like, and I got the script like for the first episode, and I read it, and I just fell in love with the writing, and it was so funny, and it was just so imaginative. And I was like, okay, I really want this now. So I did everything I could to over-prepare myself for what had to come, and I booked the self-tape room that we had at school, like the really fancy one, an hour before, an hour later, just so I knew I had time to do the audition there. And I remember my friend was like, okay, cool. Since I helped you out with your self-tape, I'm moving out of my apartment, which was really close to the school. Do you mind helping me move out before your tape? And I was like, sure, you help me out. You're my first tape, I'll return the favor. And I was helping them out, and I get a text from the casting director saying, hi, Nikko. We're going through these auditions very, very quickly. Can you hop on in like 5 minutes? And I was like, 5 minutes? Okay. And so I had to like leave and like run to the school. And I set up my laptop. I opened it up. I logged on through Zoom. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to like really prepare myself. And my friends promised afterwards we would go out. So I had some fancy clothes in my bag, my little like tote bag. And then I was like, okay, so I had my heels in there, and I had like glasses and really cool fancy stuff. And I was like, I could maybe use that during my audition later. And I was like, you know what, whatever, let's focus. And I hopped on Zoom, and I thought I was just gonna be meeting the casting director, the writer of the show, and the director, and maybe a reader. But I hopped on, and there were a lot of people there. There were like people from Prime Video, from Hulu, like producers were there. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna pee my pants. Like I'm so nervous. And then I was like, oh, wow, like I don't know what to do. And then the director was like, oh my gosh, Nikko, it's so nice to finally meet you. And the writer was like, I'm so excited to go through the tape, like to go through this callback with you. We loved your tape. We can't wait to work with you on the scene. And I was like, oh my God, me too, I'm so excited. And then they were like, okay, perfect. Is there anything you would like to tell us before we go through the scene? And I looked at my bag again with my heels and my glasses and stuff like that. And I was like, do you mind if I walk into the scene? Would that be okay? And the writer of the show went, oh, sure. You can do whatever you want. And I was like, wonderful. So I walked off. And then they said, whenever you're ready. I put the bag over my shoulder. I put the glasses on my head. I had my heels sticking out so they could see that it was like a fancy, like, fancy heels that I was wearing. And I walked into the scene, and immediately they just started bursting out laughing. And I was like, I got you. I got you. I grabbed your attention. Now let's just do the scene and have fun. And I was just making choices, and it was like such a high energy, like the adrenaline was rushing through my body. I was like acting, I was making choices, I was like making them laugh, and I was having such a good time. And then the casting director was like, that was amazing. And then the writer went, can you do that whole thing again, but just improvise the whole thing? Don't follow what's in the script. And I went, okay, because you can't say no to the writer of the show. So I did the whole thing, improvised, and they gave me some notes and stuff like that. They just kept laughing. The energy was just so wonderful. And then afterwards, they were like, Nikko, that was an amazing audition. Thank you so much. And I went, oh my God, thank you so much. I had so much fun. and then they were like, well, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. And I was like, perfect. And at the end of the call, I closed it, and I was like, that was the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life. And then that was done. I was like, I need to go eat because I haven't eaten anything. So I went to go get food with my friends. And then I get an email from the casting director. And then she goes, hi, Nikko, just confirming, you are over 18, right? And I just had to laugh because I know I look like a baby. And I was like, yes, here's my ID, like I'm over 18. And then they were like, great, that's good to know. Thank you so much. And I was like, Oh my gosh, why are they being so ominous right now? Like, why can't they just tell me that I got the role? I'm kidding. But then some time passed, um, and during this time, I was just dealing like with a lot of just mental health stuff, and like my grandma from back home was just like was suffering from cancer, so it was really affecting my mental health. And I remember after some time has passed since the audition, I was like just really hard on myself because, you know, when you're an actor, even though you had a really good callback, you're still auditioning for other stuff because you never know, like, if that doesn't work out, then you have to do other stuff as well. And I remember just being really, really sad and just really, really hard on myself because of that whole situation. And one day when I was just going to my survival job because I was, you know, I had to work while I was in New York because everything there was expensive. Um, I was going to work and then I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot my work uniforms. Had to go to H&M and buy a new shirt. And I remember just being like, oh my gosh, like what is my life? I just want to break from all of this. Then all of a sudden, while I was in the H&M, I get an email, and that email said, Nikko Angelo Hinayo offer for the role, and I was like, what? This can't be real. And I was with my friend, and I remember just holding up my phone with like my work uniform about to like pay, and just going like, ah! Oh my gosh! Like I remember just screaming. I remember just being like, ah, this can't be happening. What's going on? And my friend came over and she was like, what happened? My bad. And I was like, look at my phone. And then we just like started like crying and like laughing. And I was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I booked it. And it was like a huge show too. And I didn't have an agent. I wasn't like unionized as an actor, and it was like all crazy. And I was like, oh, what's going on? And I was like, oh my gosh, like this can't be real. I literally had to keep refreshing the email to like reaffirm myself this was actually happening. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And then I remember just being like, oh my gosh, I have to call my mom. I have to call my dad. I have to call my sister. I have to tell them. And I called my mom, and then she was at work, so she couldn't pick up. And I called my dad, and she was also at work, so she couldn't pick up. And then I called my sister. And at that point, my sister knows how much I've been struggling with like all the acting and stuff like that. And she knew I was auditioning for the show. And then I told her I got the role. And I remember just her just breaking down in tears. And she was just so happy. And then life was never the same after that. A few days later, they flew me up to Toronto to film and meet the cast. And I was so nervous because I've never been on a film set before. But they were all just so supportive. The cast was so amazing, and I'm just so happy I got to be a part of that, and I'm so forever grateful that I, you know, just kept pushing through. And yeah, it was amazing, and now it's coming out on Hulu and Prime Video, and it's called Davy and Jonesy's Locker, and I played the role of Emile, and it was amazing, and it was great. Advice I would give to other people. I think the big standout is I'm young, and I know a lot of people watching this are also young actors or young performers or want to be actors, even like older people who would like to pursue acting as well. I say just go for it. Like really just, if that's where your heart is and that's what you want to do, follow that. Because if you're passionate about something, then that's where you'll succeed, you know? Like you can't teach passion. That's something that my teachers would always say. So if you have passion about something, really just go for it. And because I'm so young, there's this stigma around young actors that we tend to grow a big head because of everything that we're presented, which is true. So what I like to do to kind of keep my feet on the ground and like humble myself is I like to take classes as well. Like even though I have this TV show and I'm still like, you know, like booking these theater shows as well, I still find time to find classes like in the city to enhance my abilities even more because I'm not perfect. I'm not an amazing actor. I still have so much to learn. So I sign myself up for acting classes. I sign myself up for dance classes and voice classes because there's always room for improvement. You know, there's always ways for you to improve your craft and really enhance yourself as a performer. And if that's what you want to do, that's what you need to do. One other thing is that as actors and as performers, as entertainers, naturally, we're going to be our worst enemies in terms of self-sabotage. I know for myself, I would talk myself down a lot about my abilities as a performer. I was like, oh my gosh, even though I booked this show without an agent, without ever being like on a film set before, and I've accomplished quite a bit for someone my age, I still have the voice in my head being like, you're not good enough. You're just like you're fooling everyone because everyone thinks you're so good when really you're just a person. But then I remember that I grew up in a really small provincial town that didn't have a lot. I immigrated here from the Philippines at the age of 6. I had to relearn how to speak English and know how to interact with other people that weren't Filipino. And I made it. I still found ways to push through. And as a gay person as well, like I have been bullied tremendously, as a lot of people can relate out there. But I found comfort in my craft. I found comfort in acting. I found comfort in performance. And that really helped me overcome a lot of those challenges in life. And look at me now. Look at me now. You can do it too. If I can do it, you certainly can as well. And there's so much talent within the Filipino community that I've always just made it a mission to amplify and enhance those voices as well. And I can't wait to see more people like me who look like me and like act like me and, are very similar to me, just hop onto the industry and just watch them grow and just shine just like how I'm doing right now. So, yeah. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Once again, my name is Nikko Angelo Hinayo. You can find me on Instagram at Nikko Hinayo. You can watch Davey and Jonesy's Locker, where I play the role of Emile on Hulu and Prime Video Canada. I'll also be starring in Storybook Theater's production of Something Rotten in the role of Francis Flute. I'll also be dancing in the ensemble as well, so you'll get to see me tap my little toes and do some tap dancing along with some very, very talented people. It's such a star-studded cast, I think, and just amazing Calgary talents as well if you're in Calgary. And afterwards, if you can't make it to that, no worries. I'll also be playing Francis Flute in A Midsummer Night's Dream with the Shakespeare Company in May. So keep a lookout for that. I'm very active on social media, so any updates that I put on will be on there. Again, thank you guys so much.